All right, welcome everyone. We appreciate you choosing to spend 45 minutes or so with us today at MasterControl for this webinar. A couple of things as we go through the content today. If there are questions that you have, please drop those into the Q&A window, not into the chat window. And we'll be watching that throughout the webinar today, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. Undoubtedly, there will be some that we are unable to get to. We will do our best to follow up with you after the webinar to get those questions answered for you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our topic today. The title of this webinar is Recall Proof Your Products. And we'll talk a little bit about some background there, as well as how MasterControl might be able to help you in recall situations. Today, joining you will be myself. My name is Matt Lowe. I am the Chief Strategy Officer here at MasterControl. And joining me will be Dallas Volk, our Director of Solutions Consulting. And Dallas and I, prior to MasterControl, both come out of the medical device industry. And so when we were asked to speak on this topic, just the old reactions jumped into play. And the word recall itself kind of sends shivers up your spine when you work in the device industry, pharma, biotech. It's a very serious thing. And so hopefully what we share with you today can be helpful in your own organizations, in your careers. Recall is undoubtedly one of those things that you'll face at some point or another if you spend enough time in this industry. So let's go ahead and jump into it today. On the agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about common FDA inspection findings to start. And you might think, well, why are we talking inspections? We're here to talk about recalls today. Logic would be that if you're able to avoid common inspection findings, you should lessen the likelihood of a recall in your business. We'll talk some about what we're seeing from a recall perspective in the industry. How does that impact your customers and the people that you're serving with your products? What is a proactive approach to preventing recalls? And then finally, Dallas will take us through some of the MasterControl application and how it can help you with these endeavors. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this first section. Form 483s. Like recall, that'll send a shiver up your spine if you've been at work in this industry for very long. For those folks that may be new to the topic, what exactly is a Form 483? Well, it is literally the name of the form that an FDA inspector will leave behind with your organization in the case that they have any observations or findings during the course of their inspection. So Form 483, you don't want one. We'll talk towards the end here about how to avoid those and in the process lessen your likelihood of a recall situation. I should have worn my little no 483 button today. It's sitting up on my desk. So last year, the FDA issued almost 4,500 483s through the course of the inspections that they did. Of those, over 25% were in the life sciences, so pharma, biotech, medical devices. And you can see on the right-hand side there, medical devices led with almost 720 483s last year. That's about 40% more than their cohort on the pharma side. And drugs would also include therapies. So significant number of the 483s go to the life sciences industry. Now, where do these 483s tend to focus? And you can see the list of things here, but almost without fail, it's either inadequate or absent procedures, processes of some sort. You can kind of bucket it all together there. And we'll walk through each of these in some more detail toward the end of the presentation part today. Now, recalls, what are we seeing on this side? And MasterControl conducted some research into the industry and with our customer base in the past several months. And these were some of the findings that came back from that research. I think it goes without saying that in the drug and device industry, a recall it's a pretty big deal. When something occurs where you've actually got to go back out to the marketplace and pull product back, nobody takes it lightly. It's a big deal. Oftentimes it's all hands on deck, and there are very good reasons for that. What we've seen through the research over the past several years are FDA mandated recalls increasing. Now, there are a lot of recalls out there that are entered into voluntarily for any number of reasons, but we're talking here about those recalls that are non-optional. It's something you have to do. There's typically a safety concern here, hence why the FDA would mandate that. So far this year, we've seen 224 in the drug area and another 60 in the device area. You can see up there on the chart, 115% increase in recalls since 2018. So this is not a trend that we want to see. Not as someone in the industry, nor obviously as consumers of products in these industries. So those recalls, like we said, big deal, big impact. Obviously there's a trust issue that can occur here that in turn translates into issues from a sales perspective, a growth of your business perspective. So again, something to be avoided at all costs. Now, what did we see in the research? How do customers of products in these categories react to a recall? And it's not terribly surprising. You can see here that over half of folks would not purchase a product that has been previously recalled. Again, over a half wouldn't recommend to family or friends purchasing a product that had been in a recall. And I think this last stat here really says it all. 40% of people have stopped using a product category entirely after a recall. So they're either forgoing whatever treatment that product might have provided them, or they're looking for an alternate or a substitute to achieve the result that they're looking for there. So really big deal from a reputation perspective. And recalls can have very long-lasting effects as well. It's not something that necessarily spikes for a period of time and then comes back. It can persist for many years to come. You can see here some of the sentiment from the consumer base out there around recalled products. Half not having confidence in manufacturing processes and quality. Half concerned about effectiveness and safety. And just 40% of folks that have trust in product manufacturers providing the necessary information or correct information that they need about a product recall. So, certainly detrimental effects here, as we would expect. This research is pretty current, as I mentioned, something we did earlier this year as we surveyed the consumer base about their sentiments around recalled products, specifically in the life sciences industry. Now, let's pivot back to how do we prevent these things from happening in the first place? And this really kind of ties back to the beginning where we talk about if we reduce the risk of the types of observations that our regulators are finding in their inspections, then that should in turn translate to a lower likelihood of a recall. So let's step into each one of these and look at it from the perspective of digitization and how that helps us really prevent these cases that we showed right from the beginning of the webinar here. Digitalization, connecting quality and manufacturing processes can have a number of benefits, and that's really what we're going to talk about here in this next section. Close gaps, errors, collaboration, visibility, predictability. Those are all things that you can get through digitizing your quality and manufacturing processes. And if we look at it from the lens through which MasterControl really approaches solving this problem, by doing those things on the same platform with a natively connected product, you really gain some advantages in both preventing situations that might be cited in an inspection with your regulatory body, but also prevent the errors that could lead to a recall down the road. And MasterControl calls its quality product QX for quality excellence and MX for manufacturing excellence. So we're really talking about the combination of your QMS and your MES solutions within your organization. So if we look at that first category of inspection findings, this is really around inadequate quality event management procedures. Well, it stands to reason that a digital QMS is certainly going to help you in this regard. And MasterControl provides you with a purpose-built no-code workflow builder that really allows you to digitize any of your quality processes within your organization. That helps with the management of those events, tracking them, trending them, putting preventive action in place to prevent them in the future, even down to predicting problems before they actually occur. And MasterControl, in addition to providing you with the tool set, also provides you with best practices workflows that really enable you to get started quickly and in a compliant way to really knock out this concern that we see crop up in the 483 data. Now, if we look at this second one, this is another kind of no-brainer. This isn't just inadequate, but this is the total absence of written procedures or documentation. And this really comes down to the framework of your quality management system, your SOPs, your work instructions, job aids, things of that nature. A digital system like MasterControl allows you to collaborate on the creation of these procedures, track where they are in their life cycle, track them through the approval process, and also make them very easy to find for those in your organization that need to access these on a regular or even infrequent basis. Making sure that, especially in the approval process, you've got an electronic signature that is 21 CFR Part 11 compliant, the whole validation aspect of the system as well, being able to produce that documentation quickly and easily for auditors as they are in your facility, and then that connection piece with the MES portion of your technology, being able to surface those procedures natively in your batch records or your device history records. How do you make that as easy as possible and make sure that you're always accessing the most up-to-date revision that has been released and approved for use? Now this one, lack of investigation into batch failures. Investigation is oftentimes hampered by just purely the lack of documentation that's needed to perform a proper investigation. Manufacturing, especially batch records and device history records, is one of those places that we still see a lot of paper. And paper, you're retaining it forever. Oftentimes it's housed off-site at an archival facility. It's hard to find, it's hard to retrieve. It can make it very difficult to do proper investigation. When all of that information is at your fingertips in a digital format that's easily searched, easily reported on, it makes it much, much easier to do a comprehensive, thorough investigation. In addition to that, leveraging the controls and validation that can be done inside of a digital record as opposed to a paper record really prevents a lot of the errors that are going to put you in an investigation stance from the get-go. It can also accelerate your product release cycle using a review by exception methodology, as opposed to going through every single field and page of the batch record. And then ultimately, how do I automate the quality control and quality assurance process as well? Being able to natively launch deviations or non-conforming material directly from within the manufacturing record and having those tied for time and all eternity so that you can easily get back to those. So lots of things that can be done through the digitalization of your manufacturing records. The next one is around process validation, and MasterControl, really where we can help here is in the generation, collaboration, storage, accessing of the documentation around process validation. So we're really talking about your validation protocols, your reports. How do you get to those easily? How do you make sure they go through the proper approval workflow and that they actually exist for your processes? This next one around training procedures. When I came to MasterControl from the medical device industry 20 years ago, this was one of the things I was most excited about. How do you really automate training and record keeping of that training? And this is an area where MasterControl can really help your organization. So if you think about an auditor, they come in, oftentimes they ask you to go pull three batch records or device history records, and then they look down the column of initials and signatures on there and they say, go pull me all the training records for every individual that's signed there. Immediate terror and panic. Yeah, a system like MasterControl really makes that irrelevant. Easy to get back to those training records, the objective evidence. There are native connections between the quality management piece and the manufacturing piece such that it's really hard for your operators to even execute a step in the manufacturing process with their training being out of date. And Dallas will show us a little bit of that in the demo today. So without further ado, let's get to the fun part of this, and I'll turn the time over to Dallas, who is going to take us through the technology and show us some of these things in action. Dallas, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, let me share my screen really quickly.
Looks good, Dallas.
All right. So today I'd just like to show you some ways where MasterControl as a QMS can help eliminate those areas where you may get findings. In turn, that should mitigate opportunities for recalls within your facility by meeting those requirements. I'm going to start off with MasterControl as a platform, many different quality tools, many different manufacturing tools, document control, document management, training management, quality event management, your manufacturing solutions. All of those are sitting on the MasterControl platform. So for analytics, we have created a tool called Insights, which is basically an internal BI tool, a data lake, where all of the data that you're putting in, along with the configuration data on those processes, are in one location where you can use that data to get analytics to help you with your processes. MasterControl is big on helping you with kind of some starting points and best practice configurations. So a lot of dashboards have already been created for you, but this does have the ability for your people that have the rights to go in and create their own dashboards, pull their own data. But there's some other tools in here that can really help you to keep things from happening that you don't want, that could cause those findings and things like that. So I'm showing you here just quickly a dashboard on training KPIs. And it's really showing how much training is completed, the average stage to complete that training, the percentage of all training tasks due. And you can see that, all training tasks due is at 2.2%. Well, that's okay. That's not something to cause a lot of alarm. But the ability to take data and look at things and set limits to be notified when certain things happen is really powerful. So if this ever got to 5%, for example, I would like, the management team to get notified. So I can come into data points and say, okay, if that data point ever gets greater than or equal to, 5%, then I would like a notification, and I would like the management team to get notified, or I would like the quality team or specific individuals to get notified. So now I have the ability to set up lower control limits, right? Where if anything gets beyond that lower control limit, then I want to get notified that our processes could be getting out of control and we need to take action on that. Along with that is also the ability to extract that data as you need to. I'm going to go to another report really quick. And use the system to not only visually show that data, but also to send data out on reports. So maybe I want a past due training task to go to management every week. So like a past due training report. So I can set up training reports to go out periodically. I can set up Excel spreadsheets so I can export that data out if I need to. So the ability for me to keep people notified on their statuses is really important in that as well. So I just want to hit on this Insights tool really quickly, but I really want to get into the software and kind of start showing you the software. So MasterControl has a lot of places where they can help you with configuring your system, helping you configure your system how you want, but it also has the ability for you to configure the system. So we have best practices that we can implement when we implement MasterControl, but you always have the ability to configure the system however works best for your businesses. So creating your document types and how they work, creating your workflows for quality events, setting up your training how you want to. Your team will have the ability to do that configuration. Everything is very easy to configure. We will teach you the configuration, and then you can control the rights on how those people configure that. Now, part of the configuration that is also really helpful is I'm going to log in as a user in my system. So this is kind of a user experience. So Jeff in my company, he's on the manufacturing floor. He's what we call a manufacturing operator. So part of my configuration in the system was creating a role where the manufacturing operators get a different experience than, say, a quality manager or somebody who works in a lab. So I have a role in my system that I created called quality manager, and the rights I allow my my operators to see in the system is they can only see certain types of documents. So I've configured quality procedures, corporate policies, manufacturing work instructions, all sorts of different types of documents to design history file documentation, marketing materials. There's a lot that I've configured into my system to control those document types. But this operator only gets access to the corporate documentation, the quality procedures, and the manufacturing work instruction. Why is that? I wanted my operators to have a really easy experience on being able to find only documents that are related to their job and not muddling through a lot of documents that don't have anything to do with what they do. But another thing I can do, and this is where it can really help you with those findings, a lot of issues come up with users not being able to find documents quickly, grabbing the wrong revisions of documents. So to eliminate that, what I've done is I've created folders. Well, first of all, with the rights that Jeff has, is documents can be in several statuses, right? They could be in draft, where we're creating a new revision of a document or creating a new document. They can be approved or released, where they have been signed off as the working document, or they can be archived as old revisions of documentation. So along with only giving Jeff access to certain types of documents that relate to his job, I can also only give him access to approved documents. So now when my operators are going into the system to find documentation, not only are they only finding documents that are related to their job, but they're also only working to approved documents. So I'll never have to worry about a finding about an operator working to an archived document, because the system will not allow their role to see that archived document. Along with that, I can also organize the documents so that the people can find it really quickly. And the system will automatically organize these for me based off of the configuration I've set up. This is called an Explorer folder. And you can see, for example, Jeff is in the operator documents. He can get to his manufacturing procedures really quickly, which will show all of the manufacturing procedure. Notice they're only in a release state because Jeff can't see draft or archive. But the system's automatically organizing it. This folder is looking for manufacturing procedures that are approved. So as new manufacturing procedures come in, go through the automated workflow and get approved, that folder will automatically point to those. Documents that get revised, revision 1 is approved, revision 2 is getting released. As revision 2 goes through its redlining and approval process within the system and gets approved, revision 1 gets pushed into an archive state. This folder automatically updates to revision 2. So in turn, what I get is a virtual SOP binder for my operators that nobody in my company has to maintain. It's always keeping itself up to date with the latest and newest revisions of those documents. Nobody's maintaining that. So really what I want is for Jeff to come into the system, be able to find his documents really easily, go to training tasks that are up for him, where he can go through his training task and take his exams and sign off on that really quickly and easily see that really quickly. But I really want my operators to have a software that looks like it was just created for operators to find their documents and do their training. So that's how I've set it up for Jeff. And then if I go in as somebody like a quality manager or a manufacturing manager, their access is much different because they need to do a lot more things in the system. They have to be able to create documents, investigate complaints, set up people's training requirements. So you see when Matt's logged into the system, not only does he have access to the My MasterControl, but he has access to other parts of the system like documents, training, working on, maybe he works on audits a little bit. So he's got configuration, it's been configured for this management, the person in this management role, to be able to do a lot more in the system than an operator. Now, I'm going to get into starting to show some of the functionality of the system. But one thing I want to do is I'm going to search for a document really quick, and I want to tell you the story show you the story that I'm going to tell you. So let me pull into this document. So what I want to show you is how MasterControl, as a closed loop system, can help you. So all of the functionality of MasterControl is on one software platform, and the system can organically connect that create a quality ecosystem for you. So a day in the life. I have a deviation that has been brought up. So I'm filling out a deviation form, and during the investigation of that deviation form, I realized that this is a very high-risk deviation and may need to be escalated to CAPA. So I've created my system so I can launch a child form right off of that deviation and send that to my CAPA team so that they can start doing a deeper dive evaluation of that corrective action or of that issue and see if it needs to go into a full-blown CAPA process, or maybe it could be tracked and trimmed or closed as just an event based off of that risk. If they decide that that needs to go into CAPA, then they can launch a CAPA form directly from that issue review, which will take them through their root cause investigation, their corrective action planning, their implementation of that corrective action, effectiveness verification. But oftentimes during the implementation part of that, part of the implementation is to revise documentation. Now the documents module takes over the document revision process. If it's a procedure that needs to be revised, the system knows how that document gets revised, all the attributes of that document, takes it through its workflow through an automated process, and then approves that document. Now that's going to take care of the document part, but I can link the CAPA directly to that document, so I now have a connection that this document to this revision was changed because of this CAPA. And with that document being revised, we also have a tight integration between the documents module and the training module. So the training module knows that a procedure is being revised. As soon as it gets revised, the system knows all of the people that trained to that document. So upon the approval of that procedure, the training module launches out training to all the required trainees with that new revision attached to it. Now, that actually gives me the ability, if you've ever sat in an audit and tried to, an auditor's looking at an auditor or inspector's looking at a deviation and sees the risk in that, and they want to know what all you have done for that high-risk deviation. Typically, before we went to this system at my previous company, that was an exercise in scrambling to a bunch of different places on the computer, different filing cabinets within the system, trying to find the doc, all the training record, showing how that's related to that CAPA, how that goes back to that deviation. Now that's all connected internally. So for that deviation, they say that's high risk. I'll say, yes, that is high risk. You can see from my risk score. So what I did is I sent that to our CAPA team to do a deeper dive evaluation of that for escalation. They showed that it needed to go to CAPA. So I clicked the link and showed the corrective action plan that we went through to correct that problem and the effectiveness check. But if they want to go down that rabbit hole deeper, they'll say things like, show me the documents that were changed. Well, now all I have to do is click the link from the CAPA to the document, show all the documents that were revised from that system. In turn, that shows all the training that happened on those documents. So now when that auditor or inspector says, show me everything that happened with this deviation, in 4 mouse clicks, I can take you from the deviation to the training that happened because of that high-risk deviation and the entire process that happened to get it from that deviation to the training that happened. So I'm going to start with just showing you some of the different modules in the system. Let me log out as Matt. Everybody has the rights that they can do. Go in as somebody who has the right to do what I want to show. So I'm going to start with the forms process in MasterControl. So for your forms, your quality events, things like deviations, nonconformances, CAPAs, things like that. MasterControl has a tool called Advanced Quality Event Management. It's a no-code tool where you can create workflows with the data you want to collect in each step of that workflow for those quality events. Just as an example, I might be working on an unplanned deviation. When I go into that deviation, it shows me the data that I'm supposed to put in for my step in the workflow. The system sent me the task because I'm in the workflow as the person that investigates deviations. So I get the task. I would go through and fill out the data that I'm required to fill out. I would be able to see all of the data that has been given to me in previous steps of the workflow. I am able to link any supporting, attach any supporting documentation, like if I have images or PDFs of emails that I want to attach as supporting documentation. I can also link to other pieces of the system. I can link to procedures I can link this to, maybe there's already a CAPA open for this and I want to link it to that CAPA to make it part of that CAPA. I can link to that. I have the ability to do things like ask for extension requests and send out tasks for people to give me information that I need for this deviation. So I can fill out my data and submit that, and then it moves along in the workflow. But I'm capturing all that data. It's something that I can do analytics on, and it can connect to the other pieces of the system. So from the user point of view, I just want to show you how that was all created. Now, MasterControl will provide you with best practice out-of-the-box solutions for those quality events. Things like out-of-spec, non-conformances, CAPAs, issue review, deviations, management of change. And for each of these processes, we've given you a best practice template based off of our 20 plus years of experience within the quality event world and working with customers, with all the customers that we have. So we can give you your own workflow showing you, where we've built this out where, it starts with capturing non-conformance issues, the data that we typically see captured for a non-conformance, the workflow that goes on to go through non-conformance to risk assessments, to investigations, to verifications, dispositions. So if you want to use our template right out of the box, you can use that template. Just put in the people in the steps that are supposed to be notified when it goes through that workflow, and that's all you really need to do in the system. You can also, because it's such an easy tool to design in, you can also, let me go back to, let's go to this. You could also take our out-of-the-box solution and modify it however you need for your business. So maybe in that first step, there are fields in here. There are fields in here where you don't like the labels for those. You could change those labels. Maybe there's fields that we're collecting that you don't need at all. You could delete those fields out. Maybe you need to add fields that are not in our out-of-the-box solution. So it's just a matter of you going into this little widget here and picking the type of field you want. Maybe I want a long text field here. I want to ask a question. I want to make that a required field. Maybe put some hint text in there, character limits. So in this scenario, I'm taking MasterControl's out-of-the-box solution and I'm modifying it to some specifics in my business. And then you also have the ability for those forms, whether we're way off on what we want to show to you, or you have forms that we don't have a template for, you can also create your own forms from scratch, where you just come in here and you build your workflow out how you want it to work, go into each of those steps of that workflow and put your own data in there that you want to collect. I'm doing one here for a continuous improvement form that I want people to be able to launch if they see a place in my company for improvement where they add that information in there, and let us evaluate that and see what kind of plan we would want to put in place to implement that continuous improvement plan. So I actually built my own form in here. It's a very easy tool, all no code to build your own forms. So with that, I've gone through that form piece. That also works with the that configuration piece also works with documents and training. I just want to show a few things on documents. You as a company can create whatever document types you want in the system. We can configure those for you as well. But as your people put documents into the system, let's say I'm going to put an SOP in here. Really, because it's configured, because you've configured it, or with the help of us have configured this, or you can configure these on your own. Let me put a manufacturing procedure in. The system is configured to make it really easy for the end user. I want to create a manufacturing procedure. I don't have to know what the next number in the scheme is. I've had the system creating the numbering scheme for me based off of either my previous numbering scheme or a numbering scheme I've designed. It knows where it lives in the system, so I don't have to figure out where to put this in the system. It knows the workflow it goes on to be approved. Really, all I need to do is give this a title, add the document that I want to put into the controlled environment to go through its approval process. You'll see a place where you can create your own metadata to track and trend, search, report, organize. So I like to organize my documents by product. So I am forcing my end users to put the product in, but that could be product, department, location, customer, project. And then another piece that's really nice is the ability to link documentation together. So if I have a procedure that's related to 2 work instructions or referenced in 2 work instructions, I can link the procedure to the work instructions. That gives me a place where I can search for documents based off of documents that reference each other. But also the system will warn you if you go to change a procedure, you go to revise the procedure, it'll warn you that there may be other documentation that needs to be updated because of that. So when I go to check out a procedure to revise it, the system will tell me that you have 2 work instructions that also could be affected by this. Do they need to be revised? So if keeping documents out of sync is a problem within your facility, this really helps with that. Now, sorry. Like I said, you can design your own workflows in the system. So for those documents, you can build your workflows where your teams can, and you can create different workflows for different document types. So maybe for my manufacturing procedure, I have a team that collaborates on a new procedure or the revision of a procedure, where those people can go in, review the document, make edits to the document, get it ready for approval. And then when I feel that document is ready for approval, so we're all doing that in one place. When I feel it's ready for approval, I can sign off on that and move it into the approval process. Now the system will automatically move it to the next step. It'll notify the people in those steps, and it will also send them an email notification. You can do things like parallel steps where you can get documents through the system much quicker because you're sending it to multiple people, multiple groups to approve at the same time. You can do escalations. So if one of your groups doesn't sign off on a document in a certain amount of time, it might get escalated to their manager. So you'll see almost an instant increase in throughput on getting documents approved based off of the workflow building tool. Also, another thing that's nice is the ability to create PDF renderings of the document. So, and that can be a write thing. So my management team that makes revisions to documents, they have access to the native documents in the system, but they can also see the PDF that MasterControl created. My operators, I don't want them to get their hands on the native file, so they only have access to the PDF rendering. What this will do is, one, give them the ability to give you the ability to put watermarks and things like that on the document, but also put rules on the document. So for my manufacturing team, I am letting them print the document out. You can take that right away as well. So when they print the document out, it'll do things like document who printed that document out and when that document expires. So I've set up a 48-hour expiration date on manufacturing procedures. So now when somebody prints it out, it shows who printed it and when they printed it, but also will stamp an expiration date that this document's only good for 48 hours from the time that it was printed out. Now, one thing that is really cool that will save you from a lot of findings is, let's say that my operator takes a electronic copy of the document, does a file save as, and saves that PDF to their desktop. That is every quality person's nightmare because that person now has a rogue copy. They're never going back to that controlled environment. So what the system does is if they do a file save as and save that to their desktop, that expiration date actually turns into a time bomb on that PDF that they took. So they can open that document for 48 hours, but on the 49th hour when they go to that icon and try to open it up, the system will just tell them the document's expired, it will no longer open. They had to go back to MasterControl for another rendering. So I think everybody that's been in a quality audit at one point or another has had to explain to an auditor why Jeff's on revision 2 of the document and the rest of the company is on revision 4. This actually helps eliminate that problem because it's blowing up that document after a certain period of time. All right, so back to my overall view of this. I kind of got through that documents piece. I wanted to show one more thing on the documents piece, sorry. So as our documents are in the system and they go through, revision or collaboration of a new document, approval and release, not only am I updating those folders that I've set up for different groups, but the system will automatically send training out upon the approval of that document. So in the training module, I will have configured for that labeling procedure, I will have configured a labeling training course that has all the rules and instructions and who trains for that. So as that document gets approved, the system sees the change of state of that and automatically launches the training out. So I'm not running around figuring out how to get all the people trained. The system's taking that part over. And I want to show the training piece of this really quick. Let me log back out here. So I did show the training piece of the end user for Jeff when he gets this training task, but this document that Jeff's training on, if you look at the materials, it's actually a procedure that got revised and the system automatically launched that training out. The way that happened was we've created courses in the system for all of my different training tasks with the rules, instructions. Do I need an exam? What are they training to? Linking it to a document makes an internal connection, but you can also attach other pieces. But what I really want is to set up my training matrix so that anytime I need to see what's going on with a group like operators, it's easy for me to go into the status of that group, see the operators in my company, their curriculum to be trained as an operator, and their percentage of completion. So you can see here that for my operators, I can really quickly see who could, do a task. Maybe if somebody called in sick, I could see really quickly who can do a task. I can really quickly see as an auditor who, is behind when an audit or the quality manager who's behind it when a training task comes up. So, an auditor's coming in. I know that I don't want them to see Doug Little at 9% completion. So this gives you a really cool view of how the different groups are doing and how they're going on in their curriculum. The trainees actually get tasked in the system. That task goes through an introduction telling them what they need to do, the materials that they're training to, so they would see the materials. If you want to test for competency, you can build exams. A lot of regulations now are requiring proof of competency. An exam is a great way to do that, where they go into the exam. I've created an exam for them. They got to get a passing score. I've given them retakes. When they go into the exam, it'll show the questions that I've created for them. True, false, multiple choice, matching, sequencing, numeric. Also being able to put images in there and ask questions about the images. As they take the exam, it will show their level of complete, or how they did in that exam, what they got correct, what they got incorrect, whether they passed or failed. Now, if Jeff would have failed, he would have getting a retake. In this case, Jeff passed, so he will sign off with his electronic signature. And now it'll update everywhere in the system that Jeff is now trained to that labeling procedure. Now, as far as those exams go, I don't know if you have ever had to create exams. I am horrible at creating exams. It's easy to think of questions. For me, the hardest part is trying to think of incorrect questions. So or incorrect answers. So when you have a multiple choice, it's easy for me to pick the correct question, the correct answer. But coming up with 3 incorrect answers that actually make sense, that was the hardest part for me. I just hate creating exams. So MasterControl has created an AI tool that will generate exams for you. So I want to show you that really quick. Let me go back into myself. So let's say that I've got a procedure out there, and part of that is I want an exam for people to take as part of their training requirements. It's really just as easy for me to choose the document that I want to do an exam on, tell the system to process that document so that I can select the areas where I want to ask questions, and then tell the system to generate questions. So you'll see from that document that I selected the areas I want questions from, the system will go through. It's figuring out the questions it's going to ask right now. So the system starts kicking me out questions from that document. You'll see it's asking me questions like, what does the acronym AQL stand for? And it actually gives some pretty logical incorrect answers as well. So it came up with 5 questions for me. It also, if I don't like the questions, I can say, regenerate a new question. I don't like that one. Or if I want to edit it, I can edit it, or I can just kick it out if I want to. So the time that it takes you to create an exam, even if it's only an hour, I'm now doing it in 5 minutes. So it's a really valuable tool to save time for your users that create those. So there's only one more piece in the demonstration that I want to show, and that's the big picture. Looking at, and I haven't got into our manufacturing tool. I'm going to show you a scenario here really quickly where so we do have a manufacturing tool where you can create your batch records or your DHFs. So your people are actually doing that data in the system electronically rather than on paper. Paper is a nightmare. Matt talked about it earlier with our review by exception, where it just shows you any errors in the system where people weren't trained, or where maybe a deviation was launched or a correction was made. Your people will be able to go into the system. Let me go back to this. Your say engineers or the people designing your production records, they'll be able to go in and build your batch record so that people are it's going to mistake proof a lot of your production records, right? With people not skipping steps, people not putting anything that's illegible, people forgetting the way that you're supposed to correct an error in the system. So you can build those processes out. But one thing that this will do is it will actually integrate with your quality system. So I can attach procedures and work instructions directly to the manufacturing record. So that manufacturing record always has the latest procedure associated with it. It will do training checks so that if you're not trained to the procedure that you're working on in that production record, the system won't let you put data in. It will actually send you to your training task to train on it so that you can come back and put data. You can also launch quality events from your production record. So I can launch deviations and nonconformances directly from my production record so that I don't have to figure out how to make that connection from the quality system back to the manufacturing tool. And I'm going to show you just really quickly here in the system. Let me go to manufacturing. So I'm just going to show you a really quick scenario here, and then I will be done with my demonstration. So I'm going to production records, and I'm going to show you what it would look like to an end user when they go into the system. They would go to the production record that they're working on. Let me just view all here real quick. So I'm working on this production record 217, lot number 217. I go through my workflow and work on the pieces that that are part of my job. So if I go into this, line clearance on the production area, notice that it's not letting me put data in because I haven't trained to this. So it's actually giving me a link to my training task so I can do the training, and then I can come back and have it check the training, and I can start putting the data in there. Now, in another step of this procedure, or in this manufacturing work instruction, let me go back out of this. This is actually also doing some calculations, and my calculations are showing that I'm out of specification. So I'm able to launch deviations directly from the production record, and that would be attached to that actual section where we deviated. And then in the review by exception part of this, it will also show you any forms that have been launched and what areas that those were applicable to. So a deviation was launched in the system. I've got the link to the deviation. It shows me exactly what caused that deviation to be launched. And then if you go back to the quality side of this, you'll see that, back to my AQM. So a deviation was launched because of a manufacturing process. If you look at this, here's the deviation that I'm working on. Notice that it's linked here to some other pieces. So the deviation caused me to come in and initiate a deviation, put in my deviation information, also start doing investigations on that deviation, on what caused that. And because of my risk score in this deviation, it says that this should be escalated to be reviewed for CAPA. So what I did is I launched an issue review, which is a CAPA request form, so that my CAPA team could actually do a deeper dive look into that deviation and see if it's something that might need CAPA. So you can see that this deviation, we went through the issue initiation, the risk assessment, the disposition of that. The disposition said this does need a CAPA. So you can see that I'm tied directly to a CAPA that was launched from this issue review, which is now taking me through, I'm in the root cause investigation step of this, and it will go through its workflow through root cause, corrective action planning, plan implementation, effectiveness checks, and deviation. But I just wanted to show you really quickly the ease of how I tied all of that together. I had that manufacturing process that caused the deviation to happen. While I'm in the deviation, I can see the risk took me to a CAPA review. So I clicked the link and took me to that CAPA review. The CAPA review showed that, from our CAPA team, showed that it did need to go to a CAPA. Click the link and show the CAPA that I'm in now. if documents need to be revised, I'll link to those documents, and it'll show me all of the documents that were revised, which in turn will show me the training that happened on those documents. So that's the big picture value that you get out of this, is where you can eliminate those areas for potential findings, which in turn could cause recalls. So I'm going to stop there with my demonstration, and I'm going to turn it back over to Matt for any questions that we might have.
Well, thank you, Dallas. Appreciate you taking folks through the MasterControl platform. Hopefully, many of you out there saw the areas in which digitization of your quality and manufacturing processes can really help eliminate those situations where you're out of compliance, might lead to a recall, could lead to an audit finding. Being able to do this on a common platform really allows you to streamline and create efficiency in that part of your business. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and jump to the Q&A portion of our program. All right, and I'm going to ask Dallas to help me here with some of these questions. So Dallas, stay online, don't go anywhere. First question from the audience, they mentioned that the demo showed how MasterControl can help with managing quality events. How does being able to create your own custom events help prevent recalls? Dallas, do you have some thoughts on that, on custom processes?
Yeah, I was actually thinking from within what I could show in the demonstration at the time I had, that continuous improvement form, right, which is a place where I can improve my processes. It's a form that I was able to develop where anybody in my company could come up with, where they see a place for improvement, could come up with an improvement plan, run that through the process, maybe even implement that improvement plan. But as everybody knows, with CAPA, the preventive action part is really turning more towards continuous improvement rather than preventive action. But if I can correct places where there's potential errors before they get a chance to happen, I think that's a place where your custom processes could really help with that.
Yeah, totally agree. Continuous improvement, great spot for that. And really, any place that you're capturing data on paper today or in Excel, all of those types of activities can be automated using the MasterControl tool. The next question we have here says, do you have any data on how much customers are able to reduce human errors by getting their batch records off paper? That's one that we do have quite a bit of data on. What we typically see when someone digitizes this part of their manufacturing process is immediate mid to high 90s on right first time. So oftentimes we'll go into a client, they may be 65, 68% on their right first time percentage. Without fail, we see that jump up 95, 98% almost right out of the gate. So huge opportunity for error reduction just through that digitization process and the validation and verification that comes inherently in that digital process itself. Next question we have here says, also referring back to the demo, we saw how MasterControl's QMS and EBR are integrated. Can you explain how this integration helps teams identify and correct issues before they become major problems that could lead to a recall? Dallas, do you want to grab that one?
Yeah, I think just from what you might have seen some of in the demonstration, the ability to eliminate, I came from the quality world. Matt, you came from more of the engineering, but also the manufacturing world. So a lot of times quality and manufacturing collide, right? Where they're trying to get product out the door and you're trying to get product out the door that has the right documentation associated with it. I think just being able, and most of the times when quality and and manufacturing are arguing, it's over ridiculous things like somebody wasn't trained, or I can't read the information that they put on the production record, or they skipped steps that weren't supposed to be skipped, or they didn't correct errors, right? Which keeps product on the loading dock, right, rather than out the door where it's supposed to go. I think showing that, connecting that quality with that, but also eliminating so many of those places where those kind of errors can happen, where people can't put data in there if they're not trained. Right? They cannot put data into a production record, or they will not be working to the wrong revision of the procedure that they're supposed to be working to. They will not be able to skip steps or forget to initial and date, or not correct, with a GDP processes, right? Because that's all baked into the system. So I see that's where a huge value is in eliminating a lot of those problems.
Yeah. Thank you, Dallas. And just to be clear, Dallas and I are good friends now. There's no manufacturing butting heads here. All right, I think we've got time for one last question. And the one that I see here, it says, can you tell us more about how the validation tools you provide work to help your customers ensure regulatory compliance? Yeah, this is an area where I think MasterControl has been a real pioneer, and that's in the tool set that we give to our clients to keep their quality and manufacturing system within compliance and validated. We have an entire patented tool set of technologies that allow you to validate your system in a matter of hours versus weeks or months. When Dallas and I both came out of the industry many years ago, I think either one of us can attest that putting in a new quality management system or a manufacturing execution system, it was weeks and weeks of validation time. MasterControl has really innovated in this area and makes it such that not only can you validate very quickly, but you can do it on a very frequent basis so that you're able to take advantage of the newest technologies and features that come available on the platform. So we'd invite you to visit with one of us or take a look at what's on our website around the validation methodology and tooling that MasterControl provides. All right, with that, I think we've come to the end of our time here. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you to everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. We hope that you've learned some things that will be helpful to you in your business. If you're ready to learn more about MasterControl's connected platform, you can see on the screen there a QR code that you can scan. You can also navigate directly to our website at mastercontrol.com. We, again, thank you for your time. Always enjoy doing these and speaking with folks out there in industry, and hope you will join us for the next one. Thank you.